I never thought that one night would alter my entire life. It's amazing how even the most routine experiences can have such a profound impact. Sometimes the biggest changes occur when someone I once ignored, someone quiet, dependable, and barely noticeable, becomes the most significant person I will ever know. It all started during what I can only characterize as the darkest period of my life, when my husband Ryan left me after 10 years of marriage. He left a simple note on the kitchen table saying, "I can't do this any longer. I'm sorry." That note broke. The house felt like a museum of memories, and I spent days on the couch in the same clothes, with swollen eyes and a hollow feeling in my chest. I could hardly eat, I hardly slept, and I went through the motions of life without really living it. One of those foggy afternoons, my neighbor Jason knocked on my door. He lived 2 floors up in the same apartment building, and we had exchanged courteous smiles in the elevator a few times, but we never really spoke. He was the kind, reserved but kind type. He was always well-groomed and carried a grocery bag or a book. One day, he held a small paper bag in his hands and said, "Hey," very softly, almost as if he was scared to be too loud. "I made some homemade chili," he continued, "thought you might want some." I blinked. He didn't stay long, just long enough to check on me, but that small gesture broke through the cloud I'd been living under, and it was the first time I felt seen. Over the next few days, I felt grateful for the warmth of that simple kindness. A part of me wanted to turn him away and tell him I wasn't in the mood, but another part of me, the tired, lonely part, reached for it. I took the bag and managed a weak smile of gratitude. One rainy evening, the power went out in our building. It was early fall, and the wind held outside like something out of a movie. I sat in the dark feeling more alone than ever. On impulse, I texted Jason, "Are you okay?" He never pushed, never asked for details, and just sat with me, listening when I talked and respecting the silence when I couldn't. Jason stopped by a few more times. Sometimes he brought dinner, and other times he just brought me some coffee or a kind word. The knock reply came immediately, "I'm fine, you need anything?" 5 minutes later there was a knock at my door. Jason stood there holding flashlights, snacks and a deck of cards. Figured we could wait this out together, he said. We sat on the floor of my living room illuminated by soft flashlight glow. We played Go Fish and talked about childhood memories. I laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks. Something in me shifted that night. I started to look at Jason differently. He wasn't just the quiet neighbor anymore. He was safe, solid, real, healing. I started to look forward to his visits, to the calm he brought into my chaotic life. He never tried to fix me or offer empty advice. He just showed up consistently, quietly, lovingly, and in those small consistent moments I began to heal. One night we were out on the balcony watching the city lights. It had been a long day for me. I'd run into Ryan at the grocery store. He didn't say a word, just looked at me and kept walking. It tore open old wounds I thought had started to close. Jason sat beside me sipping tea, not crying. He could tell I wasn't okay. "I feel like I'm stuck in a loop," I confessed, "like I take one step forward and something pulls me back." He turned to me, his eyes soft. "Healing isn't a straight line. It's okay to fall back sometimes. I'll be here when you do." His words touched something deep inside me. I turned to him, feeling a lump rise in my throat. "Please don't stop being here for me ever." He didn't hesitate. "I won't." Observing love's promise, which he fulfilled. Weeks turned into months. Jason became a part of my routine, my comfort, my support system. When I started therapy, he encouraged me. When I got a new job, he was the first to celebrate. When I had setbacks, he reminded me how far I'd come. He never asked for anything in return. Then one night, as we were watching a movie on my couch, I felt his hand gently brush against mine. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. I turned to look at him, and for the first time I saw everything I had been too afraid to admit. I saw love, not the kind that sweeps you off your feet with grand gestures, but the kind that builds brick by brick through kindness, patience, and presence. He leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to move. I didn't. Our lips met softly, and everything else faded away. From that night on, things changed, but in the best way. We didn't rush, we didn't try to label everything. We just continued the way we always had, just with more warmth, more depth. Jason never stopped showing up. He never stopped caring. He never stopped being the one constant in a time when everything else was uncertain. Years have passed now. Ryan is just a name in my past. I barely remember the sound of his voice or the sting of his leaving, because now my life is full. It's filled with laughter, with love, with a quiet kind of joy that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be. Sometimes I look at Jason while he's cooking dinner or reading a book on the couch, and I think, About that day he knocked on my door with a bag of chili. I begged him once with all the fear and hope in my heart to never stop being there for me, and he never stopped, and because of that I found love again, the kind that stays.